Hey everyone, this is replay 2 out of 6 in the Sunray very hard or nightmare difficulty 5-star run. This is Mirage357 playing the Magnu-S, equivalent in the normal game being Tirpitz. He does the escorting of Transylvania and the low tier allies, so you can see directly how to do that on your own. Now, as opposed to a cruiser which goes offensive in the beginning, the battleships play much more defensively, especially with the role he's doing. His focus is on keeping Transylvania and the allied tier 3 ships alive. To talk about the battleship's consumables, you have the shield, which is basically an invulnerability, and there have been multiple instances where they have used this, including the recent game mode in Twilight Battles for Raid for the Filth. And the other is the area heal. How this works is the number of allied ships within the area heal, the more of them boosts the amount of heal you do. So the larger area your heal covers, the better it is. And like I said in the first replay of my own, the consumable has varying levels at 50, 100, 200, and 400,000. With the first level at 50,000 or less, you can't cover much area, but if you're right next to Transylvania and catching Transylvania, the Igor, and the Blade, it's actually pretty good. But once it starts growing in size, it's going to help everyone significantly. And you can see he's staying with Transylvania, and he's able to capture all the allies in his circle with the Blade, the Jackal, Transylvania, and Igor. As for captain build, there's a question of whether you want to take manual secondaries or not. If you find yourself easily distracted and you can't focus on constantly picking targets for your secondaries, don't bother with manual. If you are really good and can keep your secondaries targeted all the time, then something you may want to think about. Now he's keeping pace very slow with Transylvania, and the whole idea is to keep all the allies alive as long as possible, as mentioned in the recording from my replay. And you see he hit 50,000 and his area grew. And there's 3 more levels at 100, 200, and 400,000. As you can see, the other 2 battleships are also staying nearby to help defend. As you you can see, we're on the second stage of spawn, third stage of spawns. As first stage was the Zikasas coming out, second stage was the tier 8 ships coming through the portal, and now is the third stage with the ships basically teleporting in right behind you in the filth. And with the Scarab finished, third stage of spawns is done. And next is fourth stage with the teleports by the first tower. And here it starts with 2 spawns, as you saw in my first replay with my own. And unfortunately the first tower falls very quickly this time. If you didn't watch my first replay, you want to make sure to try to keep the tower as long as possible, at least till 5 minutes is remaining on the scenario countdown clock, not the main clock, which unfortunately you can't see here. It's just 0. This is the last part of the 4th group of spawns with Rasputin. Unfortunately, at some point you're going to start losing allies. As you saw, we lost the Jackal there. And the Blade and the Igor are falling behind. Now, I talked about the purpose of keeping the allies alive in my replay. The purpose of this is the allies are a good distraction, at the very least, for the enemy ships, which especially keeps them from shooting at Transylvania. And if you can keep them alive, they can definitely help, if minimally, in the battle. We had one game where the Igor survived until the very end and made it out to B9, and funny enough, in that game he got the killing shot on Rasputin. And if you manage to keep the Blade alive, its constant torps really helps with keeping the enemies at bay. Now, with Rasputin gone and the first tower already destroyed, you're now moving into the 5th stage spawns and forming a line of defense, not immediately in front of the 2nd tower, but a short distance in front of it to prevent the enemy ships from spotting and shooting it. You can see me pinging on the map where the battleships want to be. You want to approximately be at E4, F5, and G6 for the battleships. And the cruisers basically pair up with the battleships behind them, because the cruiser's role isn't to tank damage, it's to DPM and kill ships, whereas the battleships with their heal, especially once their heal starts growing in size, and their vulnerability shields can tank a lot of damage. You'll see Mirage has grown to second stage with 100,000 damage now. You can already see the battle line forming right now. Now you'll see the destroyer has gone inside to target the Gorgon. One thing to note about that, make sure you do not go in too quickly with the destroyer, otherwise Gorgon will sit at the back and won't move up. I will discuss the destroyer's role more in depth in the next replay. Now if you've been watching the minimap, you'll see that the battleships, while they have been moving around, have basically been holding the line. That's the most important thing here if you want to maintain a 5-star run. You cannot give and leave a hole in your line if you want that 5 stars. You'll also note that all the battleships right now are inside the filth. You have to do that if you want to maintain your line of defense. There's no way to avoid it. And after this scarab is sunk, that's the end of the 5th set of spawns, as the remaining spawns will be just gulls. with the golds, it's just a matter of keeping them away from the second tower, and you're good for 5 stars. And just one note in the filth, you cannot benefit from the cruiser's radar. You can only spot things yourself unless you are a cruiser using your own radar. And the spotting is somewhere between 4 and 5 kilometers for your own spotting. And the battleship role is very easy to have a tendency to abandon your position, but you must maintain it if you want to keep 5 stars. The remaining is just goals spawning, and at this point it's not that hard to tell we're about to have a 5-star run, as the game ends at 3 minutes or so remaining. And that's it. You can see what you think. Do you think you could do this in a battleship? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.